Well, there was one article about did you find the aircraft taxiing?
No.
There was, there's an article in there about, when I was a crew chief, and the,
Oh, yeah.
the other gal and I were towing the airplane, we were waiting to tow the airplane, and the airplane pulled up and ended up rolling off in the dirt. And then we found out that we had to wear covering in the summertime after that because we distracted the pilots. You know, that was a hot summer. It was a hot summer. But as far as the difficulties, the problem, and it still exists, and it's still something that I'm looking at, and I haven't given up on it. The problem is when, I mean, it's usually women, but these days it's also men, run into some kind of a discriminatory circumstance or something as scary as an assault or a sexual assault or a rape. We don't have the right markers in place to protect the victims from making, ending up having problems in their careers. It's not a good thing. And as a result, there's two ways in the military to get post-traumatic stress disorder. One is when somebody's shooting at you, or there's an event that absolutely, sends you off. You witness something terrible. But the other way is something called MST, or military sexual trauma. What do you do with something like that when you're striving so hard and you're in the edge of the envelope already, and something happens that is so traumatic, and you know that the people around you cannot handle it because it may involve their boss or some other investment that was made. I'll give you this is a small story of a much larger problem, where I was attending one of the more advanced courses for the warrant officer career progression. And by then, we were all supposed to be very mature, well-behaved, dignified officers. And I had one of my jobs in the class, this was at Fort Rucker, was to take pictures of my classmates during their time in the class. Little historian thing. So I had my little camera with me, and I left it sitting on the desk. That's fine. And I didn't know anything about this until I got called into the director of the school's office and said to me, I have reason to believe that there's some pornographic material in your camera, and I would really appreciate if you would give me the roll of film, and I will have it developed, and I will get you back all the negatives except for that. Well, as it turned out, some fellows thought that they would fool around with my camera. They took pictures of their body parts, and it was in my camera. Somebody had the foresight, the wherewithal to not be one of the guys and reported this behavior, but I was still the one that was condemned because the assumption was made that I went to the cadre, that I made a big deal about it, that I these things, you know, that I had complained about it, and it was just a joke, and this guy said that, we were buddies from flight school. None of that was true. I didn't, you know. But anyway, he ended up being removed from the class, and of course that was my fault. And he ended up getting sent back to his command, and I think that he ended up receiving a bad report card. And all of that, you know, came back to me over the years. Oh, I remember, you're the one that got John so-and-so, you know, kicked out of this unit, or, you see, and that's something, that's a small example. And I really do believe that there are things that we need to do better. And so I'm hoping that there'll be better things in place so that women that this happens to, men that this happens to, don't end up stuffing traumatic experiences that end up affecting them 20 or 30 years later in a negative way. So I'm big about that. I find as I'm getting older, I'm becoming more and more of an activist. I'm hoping that the people in place, especially, you know, through the VA and some of the larger organizations like the Association of the United States Army, the VFW, the DAV, Disabled Veterans. I'm hoping that as I make these connections, which I have been, they don't just listen, but they hear.